Algebra, we are learning how to mentally calculate percentages, particularly that deal with tens and fives, like 30%, 90%, even 15%. And I'm going to show you three different methods. Put the marker back first, I guess. I'm going to show you three different methods. You don't need to know all of them. You just need to know how to do one of them. Okay. On the test, you will not be able to use a calculator. On PO23, you can do it any way that you want to, whichever one makes the most sense. That's what I'd like you to use, but I'm going to give you a couple of different options. So starting with the shots, right? She took 20 shots and made 30% of them. How many shots did she make? Okay, so using fractions. Why do we learn about converting fractions into percentages? Because that's where we're going to use this here, right? If she made 30% of 20, what is 30% as a fraction? That's how we're going to start here. 30% of 20. What's 30% as a fraction?
30 hundredths.
30 hundredths. Okay. If we can reduce that, it will help our numbers be a little bit smaller. So what is 31 hundredths reduced to be?
3. Wait. No, never mind.
You're right. 3 what?
20. No. I don't know.
3 tenths. Okay. Either divide both by 10, cancel the 0 that each of them has, whatever it takes, down to 3 tenths. So we can think about this as 3 tenths of 20. Now, why is this helpful? Because if 30% is equivalent to 3 out of 10, but she took 20, we are going to rewrite this fraction to be, instead of 3 out of 10, we're going to rewrite it so it's out of 20. Because she took 20 shots, right? So what's the scale factor from 10 to 20? Matthew? Multiply by 2, right? And if the denominator gets multiplied by 2, what happens to the numerator? Multiplied by 2. So 3 out of 10 is the same as how many out of 20? 6. And so how many shots did she make? 6 shots. Okay? Just like that. Right? So the value of knowing how to convert percentages, fractions, decimals, all that stuff is shown here, starting with that 30%, writing it as a fraction, reducing it, and then rewriting the fraction with our denominator that we want, 20, right? We were able to calculate how many shots she made. Basically it. Okay? Let's look at the test. 30 question test, 90%, is that what it was? Okay. So we're essentially looking for 90% of 30. What's 90% as a fraction? 90 out of 100. Can that be reduced?
Yes.
To what?
9 tenths.
9 tenths. Very, very good. Okay. So what this is saying is that if this was a 10-question test, she would have gotten 9 correct. But it wasn't a 10-question test. It was a 30-question test. So we want to rewrite the fraction 9 tenths to be out of 30. Because 9 out of 10 is equivalent to what out of 30? What's our scale factor? Logan. Oh, yeah, and how'd you get there? Exactly. Scale factor of 3, 10 times 3 is 30, 9 times 3 is 27, which means she got 27 questions correct. How are we doing so far?
Calculator still never ending.
Okay.
I'm with the calculator.
What would you put into a calculator? Calculator's not very helpful if you don't know how to use it.
Google.
Right? My dad's got me tools for Christmas for 12 years now. I don't know how to use any of them. So I just sit on the shelf of my garage, and when something breaks, I just call him. He comes over, he uses the tool. I don't know how to do it. Doesn't do me any good, right? A tool is great as long as you know how to use it. A calculator is a great tool, but if you don't know how to use it, doesn't do
What
me any good.
tool is it? That's the
I
question.
don't know what it's called. It's got a thing you twist and.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh.
That's the easiest thing. All you do is this.
Oh,
tightens this.
Right. Okay. So when I change the brakes of my van, I'm just gonna go like this.
Are you talking about the lug wrench? And you put it in and it goes.
Oh, it's got. I don't know.
All
right.
Come on.
Let's look at the tip.
James.
15% of 40, correct?
Sure.
Was? Okay. So we're looking for 15% of about a $40 bill,
That's not a thing.
$40 check. Okay.
I like the bill.
What is 15% of this fraction? Start us out.
1500.
1500s. Can that be simplified?
No. Yes.
5.
Divide by 5. What do we get? 3/20ths. Okay. So 15 over 100 is equivalent to 3 over 20, which means that if our check was $20, we would pay $3 in tip. However, it's not $20, it's $40. So we take that fraction that simplifies to be, and we say 3/20ths is equivalent to how much over 40? Nolan?
6
And how'd you get there?
times 3 by 2.
Multiply by 2. Multiply by 2, and we get $6 tip.
See, I said give him a $5 tip and call it a day. Look at it.
Yeah, that's only like 12%. You
And?
shortchanged them.
So,
And?
You're really tipping 12%?
yeah.
And?
Why not?
Wow.
And?
Stingy.
What do you mean?
Right? Stingy.
This makes no sense.
I'll put a pen.
Who said it makes no sense?
Hold on.
Hey, what's your.
I did not say
Wait,
it makes
oh.
no sense. I have rejection on that.
Okay, hold on. Lena? Did you put your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay, where am I losing you?
All of it.
Google.
Well, just don't necessarily look at where we start and where we end. Look at the step-by-step thing. Do you understand why we wrote 30/100ths here? Okay? And you understand how we got to 3/10ths?
No.
No? So 30/100ths,
Johnson.
if you simplify that, you can divide each by 10. Right? 30 divided by 10, 3, 100 divided by 10, 10.
Just divided by 10.
Well, not every time. Here we divided by 5, right? It kind of depends what the fraction is, but you simplify the fraction into its simplest form. Okay? And once we have that simplest form of 3/10ths, we relate our denominator here to our whole, right? 3 out of 10 is the same thing as what out of 20. And the reason why we're going to 20 is because that's what the question was asking, right? So 3 out of 10, if we double 10, we get 20. If we double 3, we get 6. And that's why 6 is our final answer. Okay? And the second one, 90%, written as 90/100ths. We reduce that to be 9/10ths. What do we divide by? To get from 90/100ths to 9/10ths, we didn't divide by 3.
Oh, I thought you said the next one.
10. Okay, and here's a tip. If your percentage ends in a 0, you'll always divide by 10 to simplify it because 100 also ends in a 0. Okay, so once we got 9/10ths, we again related our denominator to our whole. And we said 9 out of 10 is the same thing as what out of 30. Why 30? Because that's what the question asked. Okay? So 9 out of 10 is the same thing as what out of 30. The scale factor to get from 10 to 30 multiplied by 3 did the same thing to the 9, and that's how we got 27 correct. Right? Now the good news is, if this isn't making sense, you've got 2 other methods that you can rely on. Okay? But this is the fraction method. Aiden, go ahead.
Okay, I'm with James on this.
Great.
Give him
Good.
$5.
Matilda.
No, I'm not done.
Yes, you are.
When is this class over?
What's that?
When is this class over?
8:30.
Oh, that's too much. Oh, Grtilda, pick on it.
Okay, here we go. Percentages. This one requires breaking your percentage down into 10% chunks. Okay, so if we start with 30% of 20, that's what we're trying to find here, right? That's our original question. Took 20 shots, made 30%. We want to figure out what 30% of 20 is. We are going to start by breaking this down into 10% chunks. Okay, 30% of 20, I don't know what that is, but if I can think about this as 10% of 20, what is 10% of 20? And another way to think about that is, what goes into 20 10 times?
5.
No.
2.
2. Okay? Finding 10% of a number is pretty easy to do because you're just thinking what goes into it 10 times. Okay? So if 10% of 20 is 2, but we want to get to 30%, how many 10% chunks do we need?
3.
3, right? 10% times 3 equals 30%. And if 10% is 2, 2 times 3 gives us 6. So 30% equals 6. Same answer that we got over here. This is more of a mental way to do it, because if you think about 30% of 20, you can then think about mentally, what's 10%? Well, that's 2. I need 3 of those. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay? No calculator required. And the next one, we're looking for what is 90% of 30. That's the original. 90% of 30. We want to break this down into what is 10% of 30. What goes into 30 10 times? Everybody. 3.
3.
Right?
It's 3.
So if 10% is 3, how many 10% do we need to get up to 90%?
9.
9 of them. 10% times 9 is 90%, which means that 3 times 9 is going to be 27. 90% equals 27, the same 27 we got using the fraction method. Yes?
So I'm going to just do 3 times 2, which was 6.
Yes.
Then 9 times 3, which equals 27.
Yes. That's exactly what we are doing here.
So I don't have to do any of that stuff.
Well, yeah. But yeah.
Okay.
What do you mean? You don't have to show your work? Yes, you
Yeah,
have to
I'll
show
do
your work.
that.
Yeah, you got to show your work. I have to see that you understand why you're doing 3 times 9 and why you're doing 2 times.
But now I know if I want to pay a tip, 5% is 12 of 15. So I have to pay 10.
5% is 12 of 15.
Like 15% tip is supposed to be 6. But if I pay 5, it equals 12. So I can pay 7.
What?
Uh-huh.
No. Pay attention, James. All right, the last one. We want to know what 15% of 40 is. Okay? This one's a little bit trickier because our percentage doesn't end in a 0, it ends in a 5. We can still use the percentages method here. If I start breaking it down to 10%. What is 10% of 40, or what goes into 40 10 times? 4. Okay? But this time, I can't multiply 10 by anything to get up to 15%. Right here was, I needed 30%, so 10 times 3 is 30. Here was 90, 10 times 9 is 90. Here it's 15. So instead of multiplying 10 by something, I'm going to be adding 5%. Because 10% plus 5% is 15%. So here's the question. If 10% is 4, what would 5% be?
5.
If 10% is 4 and 5% is half of 10%, Logan, it'd be 2, right? If 10% is 4 and 5 is half of 10, then 5% of 40 would be 2. And 4 plus 2 gives us 6, the same $6 tip we got in the first example. Okay, all of that can be done mentally. It's easier when your percentage ends in a 0, right? Because you just have to multiply. But when it ends in a 5, you can still get there. By thinking if 10% is this, 5%, half of that would be this. 8.
I just call it, give him a 5. Why all that math?
What if your check is, you're out with a big family, nice steakhouse, what if it's $750? You're gonna leave a 5er?
No, I'll leave him like 100.
Spirit of Christmas.
Like 100?
Yeah.
Too
It's actually
much.
pretty
Why would I get
that's-
that much?
close to 15%, so that would,
See
Not
look how
be
easy that
horrible.
was.
yeah, but you
No matter-
guessed.
no
You
matter-
got
Yeah.
lucky.
No matter.
Exactly. Luck's part of the world.
Luck is part of the world. Okay, we're gonna save the multiplication method for tomorrow because I don't want to show you all my tricks at once. It's a magician's secret. But this time I saved it. Oh, what was that? But I'd like you to use one of these methods. You can choose. You said you wouldn't do this for multiplication. It's different if it's a scale factor. It's different if it's a scale factor. I'm not going to do the whoopsie-doos on for that one. No, it's different. I want you to pick one of these methods, and down below here, I don't want to erase all my work, so I'm just going to, okay? I want you to do these 8. Well, hold on.
Yeah, just a 4. 4's even 4 right
Yeah,
now.
4.
Should we do just the 4 of them?
Yeah.
All right. Pick one of these methods, show your work, and do the 4 on this page only. Work must. Oh, wait. Wait. What?
There you go.
No, the
No,
P's.
hold on. I got it.
Wow, you're really good at this.
Hold on. Right there. Oh,
Uh-huh.
right there. Perfect. Do just the 4. Do show your work. Okay. But just the 4 on the bottom of page, whatever we're on. I don't dare touch it again. For tomorrow, and that is the homework. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, comments, congratulations, criticisms. With 10 minutes left to work, if we don't get the number game tomorrow, people, it'll be the travesty of all travesties. Jillian. Complaint. Go ahead. What? I'm not going to send the whoopsies on. No. I use this for scale factor. It's different. It's not like in a horizontal multiplication equation.
So you still did something wrong.
Didn't do it wrong.
Yep.
No. I defend my honor.
His first defense.
What?
You're okay.
Ooh. It's always been
Classic
Why would you
result.
do that?
Okay. That's it, man.
Oh, yeah.